Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm giving you a tour of the living room. This is probably one of my favorite rooms of the house. It's really a toss-up between the living room and the kitchen, but I feel like they're the most done rooms. So anyway, let's get started. Alright, so on this back wall is originally where I wanted to put like built-in shelving and then have our TV and stuff, but we do have quite a long couch, so we ended up going with the couch on this wall, which I do actually really like. We have this picture above the couch that's like the quintessential like mid-century look, I feel like. We got this quite a few years ago now at a thrift store I was working at, but the couch is actually new, but it's like vintage inspired. These lamps are actually from the 60s. We've got them a few years ago, and then the tables are also like vintage, but they're the same, but they don't actually match. Like they're not actually from the same set, but they look like they do. And then I just have this vintage ashtray there that's like in that amber glass. And these pillows I actually found at one of our local grocery stores. They sometimes carry like mid-century inspired like furniture, small furniture pieces and stuff, so I always search. And so we've got the other lamp over here, the same style table but not exact, and then I have some vintage like Sears and Eaton's magazines there I like to look through sometime, and a candy dish that like is the same amber glass as the ashtray on the other side. And then here's a closer look at the picture. We actually have two of them done by the same artist. They're like slightly different scenes, and the other one's in our dining room, but I just love it. It was pretty inexpensive for the size. I think it was only like maybe $60. So then the next piece here is actually a vintage inspired piece like the couch, and it's like one of my favorites. It's the coffee table. So this coffee table was very, very inexpensive. Like it was less than 200, I think, when I bought it, and I actually found it on Walmart, like .com, I guess. Maybe it was .ca. I live in Canada, so. But I love the look of it. My grandparents actually had a table that it wasn't quite the same, but it did have like a big glass piece in the middle of it, and it reminds me of being a kid and, you know, being like, don't break the glass. But I really, really liked it because I can display some vintage magazines like underneath the glass, and then they're kind of more protected than if they were just sitting on top, which is how I used to have them. And I just have this tray there on the side that I thrifted, and I just put a few things in. I have these vintage Life magazines from the 1950s, and they're honestly like some of my favorite things in the whole world. And then we've got some vintage National Geographics as well. And then the wall next to that wall that leads into the dining room, we have some French doors. We have another canvas up there too that's I think from like a different place, but we did thrift this one as well. This one was actually very inexpensive. I think it was $15 or $20. But I love the colors in it. And then we've recently just got this chair, which is another addition, and it's actually the exact same chair that my grandpa had like all throughout my childhood, like until he passed away. And then I didn't see the chair in my grandma's house anymore. I think it was just too hard for her, but she does have it like back out in her house, so I'm going to visit her in a few weeks and I can't wait to see it. But I just saw this on the marketplace and I had to have it because it gave me so much nostalgia. It actually made me cry when I first seen it in the house. And then this table is actually from my grandma's house. She gave it to me a couple of years ago. I just have a few like vintage things on it. The lamp I think is vintage inspired, and then the phone is actually, I think it's from like the 70s. And it still works too. We don't have a landline, but. And then here is one of my most prized possessions, my TV. I just did a video all about this, so I can link that below, but Basically I've got it set up like as a smart TV, so it's the only TV in the room. I really feel like the look of a modern TV really kills the vintage vibe for me in a room, so I really wanted a vintage TV that I could use. So I have a vintage magazine rack next to it there, and then this camel is actually a vintage footstool that my grandpa turned into a bank. I think I might show you there. Kind of like cut a thing in the top, and then he added pieces to the bottom, and it's actually filled with pennies from their house as well that my grandma had given me like in a vase at another time. So this is one of the only things my grandma still had in her house that was like from my childhood, and I really wanted it, and she was nice enough to give it to me. And it's even more special because she gave it to me like while she was still alive. It's not something that I got like after she passed or anything, so I'll always just have that memory. And then I'm on the hunt for vintage curtains, but I want to make sure they're like ones that I really love, because they're pretty expensive online on like eBay and Etsy. So I just saw these in a thrift store. They were really inexpensive, and I just put them up, and I'm just gonna live with these until I can find like what I really want. I do have a pretty good idea. It's just finding them and finding enough panels kind of to make it work. But I really love the way that like the whole this whole section looks with the TV, and this is another one of my favorite pieces as well. I usually have it out at fall, but it's this candy dish that's like leaf shaped, and then we just have a vintage like thing for coins. And this is actually another vintage inspired piece that I am obsessed with. I had been looking at this for probably well over a year. I think it's by Novogratz, but I found it on Amazon. But I know they sell it on other places too. But I really wanted a record stand that could hold all of my records, and this definitely does. It had a fair amount of bad reviews, but again, I don't know, I feel like I just don't even trust reviews anymore, because mine came in perfect condition, except that it did have a scratch on the top. I think I was trying to show you, but I really have to look for the scratch now, because I just filled it in with that, you know, they're like markers that you can kind of remove scratches with because it blends it in. So yeah. And then I think I did show those little like starburst inspired mirrors in my thrift haul for the house, and that's where I ended up putting them, and I really like the way that little corner looks. So next we've got what I am kind of using as the built-in wall. So I really want to eventually have built-ins, but I decided to just get a couple of bookshelves for the time being until I can make that happen. And then I put the fireplace in between, which we already had from years ago, thrifted. But these bookshelves I felt kind of had a mid-century vibe to them, and they were really inexpensive on Amazon as well. They did have ones that I liked better, but I just didn't want to spend like $500 per bookshelf, so I wanted to be practical. And then this is where I ended up putting the mirror I showed in my home haul, and it's perfect because it fits right over the thermostat for like our furnace. So, but it's all open around the sides, so it's not going to actually affect the furnace itself. So then on top of the fireplace here, I just have a few things. I really love that little kind of genie lamp looking thing, but it actually lights up. It's not vintage, but it kind of gave me that vibe. In the bottoms of the bookshelves is actually doors with cabinets. So that's where I keep all of my like TV shows on DVDs that I watch on my TV. And then I just have a bunch of VHS actually displayed. I feel like they look cooler than the DVDs. And I like to just keep it pretty simple in terms of bookshelf styling. I have a few like coffee mugs that are sentimental. I use old books to thrift, or I thrift old books and I use those to decorate a lot. But then I just mainly have colored glass displayed, some kind of plant like foliage, and vintage cameras. And I'm hoping eventually I can get enough genie bottles that the whole like top of them, like maybe 3 on each side, But for now I just have two, and one's actually missing a top, but I don't care because they were both really, really inexpensive. The full complete one, I think I got for like $5.99, which is insane. So that's pretty much an overview of the whole living room. I really, really love it. It's like my dream living room, like the beginnings of it. I definitely want to like do more, like I said, with the built-ins. But for now, I'm just really, really happy with how it turned out, for not actually having to like do anything other than paint the walls. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the tour, and I'm going to post my kitchen tour very soon as well.